SD bullion.
Do you think it's actually possible we'll see a Greek default, or do you see the Fed stepping up at the plate at the last minute? And
Well, I mean, it's a hopeless situation for Greece, right? I mean, it just is. I mean, I can't even imagine thinking of writing a check for 130 billion to Greece. Like, how irresponsible is that? And I don't know what's specifically going to happen in the Greek situation, but you know, when you look at the whole crisis that's unfolding here, um, you know, we're hitting. Our governor of the Bank of Canada said, you know, we're at a Minsky moment, and a Minsky moment is when you have so much debt, your debt's grown so large that your GDP can't service it. And we have so many countries that have, you know, 100% debt to GDP. Thank God we have a zero interest rate policy. Otherwise, everyone wouldn't be able to pay their interest. Um, but there's no way that we can continue to service these things, and we're going to end up with some unintended consequences of that. The LTRO that the Europeans have, where you know they'll lend us almost as much money as any bank wants. And I think the greatest unintended consequence is if you put yourself in the shoes of the Chinese or some non-G6 nation, and you're looking in, and you think, what the hell is going on there? Those guys just lent 750 billion that month, and maybe it's a trillion at the end of this month. Um, Obviously, somebody's taking on an obligation here that one would guess they won't be able to repay. And I sense now that, and I'm trying to do some work on this, that the Chinese have probably altered their investment posture, as with most the non-G6 countries. Why would you buy European debt? Why would you buy American debt? Why would you buy Japanese debt? Well, and why would you buy English debt? All these central banks just keep printing money. Well, if you took those four investment classes out of your portfolio, what is left? And as I mentioned earlier, I mean, the gold imports or exports out of Hong Kong into China have skyrocketed in the last 4 or 5 months of the year. And serious dollars here. We might be talking probably 12 to 15 billion dollars in 5 months. That's not chicken feed. And I suspect that when you look around the landscape, you think, well, there aren't too many things left to invest in that where I'm likely to get repaid or repaid fairly. So I think the crisis is essentially out of control. Most countries cannot support their debt. Obviously, some can, but most can't. And I don't know how it all ends, but the whole, you know, every day we come in and there's some new rule in the economics rule book. You know, I mean, yesterday was Japan with 100 billion print, and 2 days before that it was England with 50 billion pound print, and you know, at the end of this month there'll be whatever another 500 million billion to a trillion in the LTRO in Europe. I mean, it's in my mind, it's just totally out of control. So it gives me great comfort to think that if you own gold and silver, that you're probably in much safer hands these days.
yeah, 500 billion here, 750 billion there, a trillion there. Pretty soon you're talking real money.
Pretty soon you're talking real money.
And I totally agree with you about where else is there to turn. I mean, I've felt the same way for probably 7 or 8 years, just with my own personal holdings. I mean, you can see the writing on the wall, and I mean, do you want to be in a money market account when each economy is like printing 30% of their
Right.
deficit? I mean,
Right. It's incredible. It's a like we're in a surreal kind of world, right? It's amazing that everything's held together here, and I'm always a little shocked when I see the market going. Even the markets today are going up, and you know, I don't know why they're going up, but they just are. And you know, we had that mysterious rally at the end of yesterday, and it's mind-boggling that anyone can think things are going well because they aren't going well. There was some great analysis done, I think it was by Zero Hedge, on yesterday's retail sales. Well, on a real basis, counting real numbers, sales in January were abysmal. But with the seasonal adjustment, all of a sudden they were up, whatever the number was, 0.4%. I mean, it was a joke. And the same thing with, of course, the employment data, which is all garbage. And then we keep getting these data points that say everything's wonderful when it's not wonderful. So all the more reason to fear that if there's a continuing economic slowdown, I mean, it's going to continue to lean on the banking system and create more and more sovereign risk. So all the more reason to own precious metals.
Right. I would say probably the only U.S. government economic data that I see is even remotely accurate would be like tax withholdings. They don't adjust that, but and that's in a severe downtrend. We have like the Baltic Dry Index that's been collapsing. Yeah. Like all the economic indicators are not looking good.
No, well, it's not too hard to, if you just stand back and say, well, how much are wages going up, and what is the employment growth, the real employment growth, and then what are costs going up by? I mean, here we have oil back over 100. I think we have a record high average gasoline price right now in the U.S. and obviously going to go higher. So how can anyone imagine that people's disposable income is going up? It's not going up. It's going down. So how do you buy more when your disposable income is going down? It just doesn't work. And we can all have these wonderful thoughts that we're going to have a recovery here, but unless people get paid more money, there's no way they can buy more.
Right. I kind of want to follow this through kind of to the end game in the currency debasement. I mean, everybody kind of fears like a German Weimar type hyperinflationary event. One thing I've always kind of contemplated and racked through my mind, and just wondered what your thoughts would be. Say this end game we do one day devolve into hyperinflationary collapse here in the West. Are any paper equities, unless you own the actual physical certificates, I mean, you're pretty much, the average Joe is going to be locked into those during massive inflation or hyperinflation, because I mean, it takes 3 days to clear, another couple days to get the funds to your account. I mean, physical silver and gold in your own possession may be the average Joe's only liquidity in a crisis like that he's going to just kind of have to sit on his shares till it's all over with.
Well, I think it's the safest route to go. I mean, there's no doubt that some people can make a case for stocks going up, because in a hyperinflationary environment, they'll go up. But I think you can make a much stronger case for precious metals will go up the most. Precious metal stocks will probably outperform precious metals. So I think that's the better place to be. So I just think it's a very safe place to be. I think it's a safe place to be in a deflationary environment. I think it's a safe place to be in an inflationary or hyperinflationary environment. And if you could imagine that a lot of those non-G6 countries decide to invest in real things rather than paper, that's how you'll get your hyperinflation. And I sort of look at copper prices being here and oil prices being here, and I think maybe we're seeing the first signs of this, where we don't have a strong economy in the world, but some of the commodity-sensitive products are going up, and maybe it's just that people have changed their investment stance already.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that with a lot of different physical commodities. Well, Eric, I know I could talk to you all day about silver, but out of respect for your time, I think we'll wrap up here. So it was definitely a pleasure to speak with you and to hear your thoughts about silver, and I hope we're able to speak to you again soon, Eric.
Sure, Doc. Well, I tell you, I really appreciate your site. I mean, I look at it every day. You add a different perspective to the silver market, and as a fellow silver bull, I think what you're doing for the silver community is great. So keep up the great work, and happy to talk anytime.